What is going on, everyone? We have a special episode of the. I don't even know what my shows are called anymore, but we have a special episode of content. One of the terms that I always hated. I really did. Everything's content now. I seen an influencer go to the beach. They upload pictures with that. They go, no, well, I'm just creating content for the beach. No, you're taking pictures. You're taking pictures at the beach. My mom, with her photo album, wasn't creating content. We went to the beach as kids and we took pictures. That was not creating content. I'd argue this is a little closer to creating content. What the hell am I talking about? One of your favorite guests, probably your favorite guest. I don't know. I don't have a Family Feud ranking. I think I've had 2 guests in total. So, that's one of those things like, you're my best friend, but I'm your only friend. Well, it still counts. We got Josh Inglis, Pringles without the PR, coming in here to talk some NHL. I thought today was a good day, a one-game NHL slate, so it'd be the perfect day to talk about a couple tree things, as Phil Leotardo would say. How the NHL season has gone, maybe how it's differed from previous seasons, the Four Nations scam off, which I'm pretty much going to do nothing on, but I feel like you're all over stuff like that. And maybe we'll talk Super Bowl a little bit, because I do find it fascinating that you are a true and tried Canadian, right? You are a full Canadian, like booing the Americans at the game last night. You're a full Canadian. So how, out of curiosity, how did you get into NFL football, which is an American thing?
We like football in Canada. Like, we've always watched football. It's a thing. Like, we have our football. It's quite different. But, I grew up playing football, high school quarterback bud of a losing team. Who didn't like playing Madden growing up, right? Like, that was the game. NHL and Madden were the 2 games growing up. But football, just because of its broadcast, big lights. Because even when I was so young, I was a Washington fan just because they were winning. When your kids do that, like my kid is a Texas Ranger fan. The other one's an LA Dodger fan. They just pick whoever wins.
But there's an excuse. There's an excuse. It's not like you could say, well, I love those Toronto Argonauts when they're not in the league. You have to pick a team. So something has to draw you to one of those teams when you're young. So that's kind of somewhat of a forgiven front running. We'll call that some forgiven front running. But
and then I had to jump ship to the Raiders, like many of us suburban kids listening to Wu-Tang, listening to West Coast rap. We're like, wow, those colors are great. I gotta get in on that Raiders lifestyle.
All right. Well, look, I forgave you for choosing a team. I'm not going to forgive you for then switching. Once you've declared your allegiance, it's like that movie Divergent or something. You can't go to the other families. All right, you cut your blood, you put it in a bowl. You're in that faction for the rest of your life. But anyway, most of the stuff that we talk about typically, other than when you're trying to get me through talking about baseball, is the NHL. And the last time we talked was before the season. We talked about potential season-long bets. I know we were talking about, we opened up with the Rookie of the Year, Matvei Michkov, not being a very smart bet as the odds-on favorite. And at first we weren't looking so well. We were laughing about it, saying, who would bet that? And it wasn't looking so great for a hot minute, but it turns out that, the Tortorella strict nature eventually came through for us. As far as any of those futures awards, I thought that's something that maybe we can talk about a little at this point of the season. Do you see any that are up for grabs from this point forward? We obviously know Connor Hellebuck for Vezina is out. It's coming in at a cold minus 3,000. I never mind those people who just have stacks of money. You ever see those people? I don't know if they do it just because it gives them a thrill. They'll put 3,000 up to win 100, just, I don't know, for screenshot purposes. But it got so bad that I think I sent you, there was a market that came out called Who Wins the Vezina, not named Hellebuck. There was a futures, it's probably still out there somewhere. Who, not named Connor Hellebuck, wins the Vezina? I think that just means who gets the next highest amount of votes, which is a pretty funny bet in and of itself. I can pull up some of the odds for you for some of the other awards. The one that I found kind of most interesting was the Hart Trophy. Is it
Yeah.
really settled?
No.
Is this
Not
Hart
not
Trophy?
not with Kaprizov out, right? Like that was it. Like he came back, he's injured, he came back, and now he's on the shelf for a lot more. That's kind of throwing it up. And I think Draisaitl kind of got bumped up too much because of the extra games and how well he's done with McDavid at the lineup for a couple games. But like they're gonna eat into each other. McDavid at plus 600 is still pretty good, like to back McDavid. And then like is Hellebuck, are they gonna do that? Are they gonna Is it going to be the on par NHL thing where they give it to McDavid on a losing thing? They've already done that once. You can't do it in back-to-back big awards like that. And I don't know, Draisaitl 155. If he wins the Rocket, does that mean like he's less able to win this award because he's already got hardware? It's a tough one.
Okay, from here to the end of the season, who will have more points from here to the end of the season? Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl? The evidence suggests, history suggests, the future odds, everything suggests Connor McDavid will be that person. So if from here on out, like Connor McDavid is more productive, how could that help Draisaitl's current? Why is he even the favorite? What is he really doing? I guess leading the league in goal. Man, I think this is up for grabs the rest of the way. I don't think it's Hellebuck. All I think that Hellebuck is doing is having the most consistent, very good year in the midst of a year where no other goalies are really in contention. That's why he's a lock for the Vezina. But when Igor was in that Hart running like 3 seasons ago, where he was honestly one of the favorites as well, it was talked about all year about how the Rangers had like some of the worst metrics in the league 5-on-5, yet he was just standing on his head in the midst of like a runaway Vezina season. I don't see that with Hellebuck here. I don't even. Man, this is a weird one. And are they just not likely to give it to? Is this just a Draisaitl by default? They don't want to give it to McKinnon in back-to-back years?
I don't know. Is the Hart going to be awarded to the Art Ross? Because that's kind of where we're looking at it. Like if Draisaitl leads the league and let's say he passes McKinnon, let's say he leads the league in points and goals, like he's getting the Hart Trophy, right? Like if you win both of those, you're getting the Hart Trophy. But let's say, I don't know, what has he got, a 5-goal lead right now, 36-31. Scheifele, Reinhart, Connor, Nylander down at 30. I don't know. I mean, that's pretty substantial. If he scores 50, what do they got? 20 some games left.
Well, remember they didn't give it to. I don't know how much they value those goal scorers. Was Austin Matthews
30% shooting percentage last year?
And then Matthews had how many goals?
Yeah, 69.
69 goals.
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible. Wait, Alex, did I send you the Art Ross or the goal score, most goals or most points?
Rocket.
Yeah, I know it's definitely available. Maybe it was the link that I sent you.
McKinnon's
but I thought
minus 130 favorite right now for the Art Ross, and Draisaitl's plus 150. He's got a 3-point lead.
You know who I'm looking at on that sheet, because I just believe any game this guy, he could start ripping off 5 points per game.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to think about McDavid at plus 400. I saw. No, there's no way those are right. I looked before. Yeah, that's odds as of January
McDavid, I see
13th.
plus 350.
Yeah, but before we started, BetMGM had it at plus 400, I believe. And I just think a guy who can rip off points at the pace that he does, I think he's live. I think he's live with that. So what do we got there? So FanDuel, McKinnon, Draisaitl, McDavid. So that's plus 360.
Kucherov's only 1 point behind Draisaitl at that price.
And we know he loves that empty net situation.
That's it, right? Like if you're predicting like who's going to get the most points from here on out between him and Leon Draisaitl, you have to kind of give the edge to Kucherov. If they're winning more, obviously he gets a chance to get more empty net points. But it's just him. Like Cooper will play him now like 24 minutes a game.
And Leon, for the most part, when things are just going normally, they're playing him with Victor Arvidsson and Vasily Podkolzin. I know every game it seems to change at a moment's notice, but I don't know, man. I gotta be honest. I've never been fully sold on Leon Draisaitl the same way I was never fully sold on Mikko Rantanen. Any sort of lumbering scorer, I think, has the opportunity to dry up big time in the NHL. And with that Mikko Rantanen thing, Marty Necas was leading this NHL, this league, playing on the second line of Carolina, leading the entire league in scoring straight through Christmas on a team that I don't think they've ever had like a 40-goal scorer under Brind'Amour. I think maybe this whole Brind'Amour tenure, every single year, you never see somebody hit 40 goals. You never see somebody hit 90 points. And this year, they had a player on their second line leading the entire NHL in scoring. Colorado trades for that player, and they trade away Mikko Rantanen, who has a lifetime Nathan MacKinnon bump attached to his name. And then people are acting like Colorado gets fleeced. Now all of a sudden Rantanen's over there in Carolina. What is it, 2 points, 4 games? The points and offense doesn't just flow over there like it does in Colorado. And slowly but surely, I think people are going to start coming around to that. I don't know. Maybe they'll make me look like a donkey, but when I watch those two players play, I see one player just who can fly and do a ton of things, and then one big, burly guy with a great shot who doesn't move a lot in different areas of the ice. So, I don't know. What did you think about that trade?
I don't know. He's like you said, like Carolina, you're like, okay, Jordan Martinook's going to get his 15 minutes, right, with the stall line. Like, but there's no room for like 20-minute guys in that offense. So you don't really see what Marty Necas does in that 20 to 22-minute top line role, which now he's getting in Colorado. I think it is an awesome move from the Colorado front office to have the balls to pull that move off, to be like, we got to pay Makar. We don't really want to pay Rantanen. And they were kind of strapped a bit. So boom, off you go. Don't worry about it. I like them not even asking Nate. Like if Nate wasn't even in on it, you're like, fuck it, this is our operation. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it before the break so we have time to blend in and stuff, whatever. But if you've talked to if you've listened to people in the league talk about Marty Necas, like his teammates, like they know how special he is. I would prefer Marty Necas over like Seth Jarvis. I would probably prefer Marty Necas over Svechnikov. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
And I'd probably take him over Aho. I know one's a winger, one's played center, but like I think he might have been the most talented forward in that group.
Yeah, he's like the third fastest player in the NHL. I think they were showing like bursts over 20 miles per hour. It was McDavid, McKinnon, and him. And now they have two of the three guys playing on the same line. And as you can predict, the results have been pretty solid these first couple of days. So so far this season, every season kind of has its own little wrinkles of what works, what doesn't work. And early this season, we were just crushing on correlated line combos. Once we had an odds shift come from DraftKings, I veered my plays rather than just looking at like, okay, it's just the same line, same power play only, though. Rather than adhering to the strict rules, I kind of used some of my knowledge of the line construction and the players and how they play to make up for that loss in prices by taking players for assists when you know when you kind of know their skill sets. For example, we have a 1-game slate tonight. We have the Ottawa Senators facing off against the Nashville Predators. And we saw Ottawa last game kind of erupt. Their top power play came through. We know that their current line construction, the way things work, is if you win, you throw a beating, anything like that, you're mostly going to get the same exact lines in the following game. We have a full line correlated on the top, a full top line correlated on the top power play with Tkachuk, Stützle, and Claude Giroux. Now, if this was October, we probably would just say, okay, maybe you do Tkachuk, Stützle, Kachuk, Giroux, Stutzla, Giroux. Maybe you can do it that way, or you can just take the full line, point, point, point. But now the way I've been doing things is, okay, use those 3 players to try to extract the most you can. And what would I do there? I would take the best 2 players on that line, like we typically would, even early in the season when we had those great odds. If we clicked Marner and Matthews and we were plus 108, we were playing them. That's still quality. So I will take the best 2 players of that line, Kachuk and Stutzla, and that will be one of my combos for a unit. Then after that, I know of these 3 players, who's most likely to defer? Who hates shooting it the most? And it's easily Claude Giroux. So what I would do is like a half unit, and we did this last game. Stutzla over 1.5 points, plus a point for Kachuk, and then an assist for Giroux. You're basically saying this line's going to come through multiple times, and who's the guy most likely to have a pass on that one of those goals, and who's the one most likely to have over 1.5 points? Well, I'm going to take the perimeter power play player. I'm going to take Kachuk for 1 point because, sometimes that guy just pasted in front of the net. And then Giroux, the natural passer who's always on the perimeter of the power play. That's kind of how I've updated things to make up in that loss for us. I do that with pretty much all the teams now. Like last night, it would have been Thomas with an assist playing with Buchnevich and Kyrou. That's the direction I've went since the major odds shift with the line combos on DraftKings. Where have you focused a lot of your energies early this season? I really feel like I've been seeing a lot of stuff with power play points coming from you.
I've been grasping at straws trying to get back to where, like, the stack stuff was so easy. You're like, there was no discrimination in the stacks. You just found everyone, and that was the easiest betting, right? And that's where you found the most value, because usually your own perceptions would stop you from betting Vetrano, Terry, and Strome. You're like, no, not here. But you're getting like plus 650, plus 750.
Yeah, how much money did Alex Killorn and Leo Carlson make you last night? Unbelievable. They both hit. So when I get a high priced combo, that you can easily, make some back and more. Like if you're doing things by unit. So what I would do there is well, they're priced well, but they're not priced like Carlson and Killorn. So I would do like a half unit on point, 0.2 units on 2 points, 1 point, 0.2 units on 1.2 points, and then 0.1 units on 2 points, 2 points. Well, when that comes through for you like it did last night, even if they only got 1 point each, you were still well into the money by putting a half unit on it. And then because those other ones came through, man, does that set you on a fantastic night. So while you were telling me before we started filming that, like, oh, you actually made money playing the unders last night, everybody on the Patreon who like puts all these plays in, we were plus 16 on the overs last night. Mostly because of those crazy, yes, using the same exact strategy. So there was the full Kyrou line. There was both Anaheim lines came through. So you had the full Zegras filling in for Terry. So it was Zegras, Strome, and Vetrano, and then Killorn and Carlson. Then we had the full JT Miller, Zibanejad, and Panarin line. That was another one that came through. And there were a few others, but we ended up like plus 15. And it goes back to that Panarin line. What did I do? JT Miller over 1.5 points. Who's the guy most likely to pass? Panarin. Who's the guy most likely to only get 1 point? Awful Mika Zibanejad. And that was like a plus 6 something for us. So it's using, a little bit of knowledge of the player's skill sets and trying to max up. Just winning that combo 1-1-1 is not enough. I'm putting in an extra half unit to truly try to extract more out of them when they have big nights. And that's how I've been able to make up for the loss in odds when it shifted. Not only lost or make up for it, but make up for it and more. We actually had a bigger December post odds shift than November or October using that kind of method. So I've been just focusing on creative point parlays with line mates and doing it in a way utilizing the player's skill sets and strategically coming up with the best combos for
But like,
each game.
here are the unders that cash too, right? Like, first game, Hughes under 1.5, Bratt no points, plus 210, didn't come through. Meyer Mercer came through plus 210. That's a pretty good combo in that game. We lost both of them in the Buffalo games, but then go around in Philadelphia, Cates Forrester, and then I added Konechny, even though it didn't correlate fully, but that was plus 320. Natchez, Lehkonen, Mac under 1.5, that was plus 650. To get a guy under 1.5, that's plus 650. Suzuki, Caulfield, Slafkovsky, plus 550. That was a cash. What else did we get? Carlson, Zegras, Kalor, no. Voronkov, Vintilli, they actually cashed all in one play, as they usually do.
Yeah.
But like that's, I mean, right there, I'm like, okay, boom, there's a solid 10 units.
Isn't that interesting? Overs were up. Well, not just strictly doing it the regular way, but our overs were up over plus 10. Your unders were up over plus 10. And if you sniff strategically, you can find a way that they're in there. The way to weasel money via the NHL sniffs are still in there. And as far as that game tonight goes, I am fully okay with the things that I just said. You're talking about a team that just scored 6 goals, a bunch on the power play, a top line that all had multi-point performances. Yeah, I'm fully fine with Tkachuk and Stützle combo, and then the over 1.5 for Stützle, point for Tkachuk, assist for Giroux. That's kind of something I've been doing. Then on the other side, when a team loses that many in a row, we probably got some line changes coming tonight. That's probably the most annoying thing, by the way. Always knowing the little nuances that change from game to game. But since that's where you get the most advantage.
Job's trickier, right?
Yeah.
Like trying to create content like outside of it, your favorite word, like not after the morning skate. Like to try to be predictive of what it is and tell people, okay, this is what we're going to do, but you have to pay attention to be like, oh, okay. And there's lots of illnesses going around.
Yeah.
And
how about that yesterday?
Terry. Is Nashville going to change? Like they lose, but they don't really change that top line too much, but they could.
Yeah, especially when you see the previous game, they made a change in the third period. So it's like, oh, okay, are those going to be the new lines? So then you have to wait to pregame. Then, like yesterday, you think you just have the classic Terry, Strome, Vetrano in there.
I saw that. You're like,
and then Terry, it just goes, oh yeah, he's just not feeling well. Like 25 minutes before the game. And I guess that's fair. Sometimes that, but wouldn't you know somebody's not going to play earlier in the day? And regardless, you have to be aware. You kind of have to be like Peyton Manning behind the line of scrimmage. Like, oh, we got a guy down on line 3 coming up to line 1. Is that guy on top power play? Let's keep him on the. You got to know all the shifting parts. And I guess
we can establish that maybe Anaheim as a franchise and like as journalists follow them and beat writers follow them, maybe they don't have like 800 beat reporters like the Leafs do that are on top of everything. And it was a Sunday, so maybe the reporting was kind of a little lax in terms of what we knew.
Yeah. My guy Chris tells me that there's a contingent of teams who don't send their beat reporters on the road. Yeah. Like, do you understand what that means? It means you have no clue what's going on. These people are haphazardly reporting from home while the team's on the road and they can't get a true grasp of what's going on pregame. So that's, I think, like, the Sharks, the Ducks. Come on, Californians. Take a couple of those shekels and send these people out. I mean, you can't get these guys a plane ticket. I can get Josh on this show. You can't get them a plane ticket to just go to a hotel to stay at the Radisson. I mean, I'm sure you can kind of find it. Frank Vetrano slams his stick after a missed shot. That's $600 right there. So I don't know, man. Send your beat reporters on the road. Why? So it can make our lives easier, obviously. So what else in terms?
One thing's true, that like just trying to look at the slate and just be like, all right, I think Johnny Smith's over 2.5 shots is a great play today just because he's doing it well. I'm like, I really used to bet like that. And you kind of get better and try to look at, and you're really good at scamming, honestly, which is basically finding the edges. And it was something I was pretty bad at too. It's like, okay, here's a game. You're like, if there's not any information edge, then you're kind of just gambling, honestly, right? Like you're flipping coins.
Do you know what doing all these line combos has really not just shown me, but it showed all the people? Many people tried to say, I would put out the plays, and if this was a month ago, they would probably leave those Anaheim stacks off. Like, come on, man, Anaheim, like they don't score a lot. They're a bad team. There are new heroes every night, and so many times the games that you expect to be duds are the only game. Like, you could have two of the highest. You have Edmonton, Colorado. It's 2-1 late in the third. So many times that happens. On the other hand, you had like Seattle play Anaheim last week. It's 7-4 late in the third. And it's just, we talk about this all the time. I call money line betting, donkey line betting. I know everybody, that's just probably what they want to click the most. The NHL just isn't like other sports. I try to always highlight it. Chicago going into Tampa and like shutting them out. You see the Kings losing to Pittsburgh on their own home ice. Oh, Pittsburgh must be on a run. No, then they go lose to the Ducks and the Sharks and every bad team on the West Coast. There's no rhyme or reason, because all the real teams, let's be honest, they have just a high percentage of mail-ins. I learned this when the Lightning were going through their 3-year cup run. You never saw the real Lightning, yet they were underdogs once the playoffs started. They clicked into their different style of hockey, which is, kind of the playoff style that they don't use during the regular season. And that's what you're seeing from the Sharks. You think the Sharks couldn't be one in the whole NHL? I'm sorry, the Sharks. The Panthers. You think they couldn't be number one in the NHL right now? They don't give a rat's ass about half these games. They played the craziest games 2 years in a row. They can't get it up for that 4 in Pittsburgh, as I always tell you. They can't. They try to say that they can. They try to convince themselves that, but they can't. And that's why you see so much game-to-game upsets, and you never really know what
Sam
happens.
Bennett, 0.2 points per game, like just an absolute cliff of production. Guess where it's going to go in the playoffs?
Yeah. I heard you talk about him recently. I mean, they stuck him with Lusterinen and Samoskevich for like a good 3 weeks. And I kind of like what Maurice does, because many times throughout the playoffs, they have these subtle changes when they need a little jump. And I kind of like that they tinker with those exact subtle changes throughout the year, so that it's not just a full mystery like it's happening for the first time. So I kind of like he never really messes with you never really see Barkov and Reinhart switched around.
That's it.
It's usually.
Verhaeghe could be on the third line too, right? Or it could be, first line. There you go, first line PP1. But there was a time. Jesper Boqvist is interesting there on that second line.
Seriously.
But I know, but like, look at that third line, right? Like, that's a dirty playoff third line if they keep that line. Like Lundell is Barkov light. He's one of the more important depth pieces on that team. I don't like. You're not going to do much with.
By the way, do you remember who had the most goals in the Stanley Cup final?
No, I don't. Was it Lundell?
It was Rodriguez, and I had that.
Oh,
that
yeah,
wild bet.
That was your bet. Yeah.
Basically, Rodriguez, he's prone to shooting. So do you see that right there? That Lundell Rodriguez, that's a line 3 power play 2 correlated combo. They had games these last 2 nights. I gave out Lundell assist with a Rodriguez point. 2 straight games, Lundell assist, Rodriguez point. Both of those bets were plus 500. Back-to-back days. Just a dinky Lundell assist against the New York Islanders and a Rodriguez point. Plus 500, came through in back-to-back games. If they miss the next 6 in a row, you're still ahead by quite a bit. So when you do that, in the long run, these odds on these combos like this, and I think I saw you mention it on one of your shows recently, like, wow, it's those PP2 combos really been giving us a bump, like they've really been coming through. It's because it needs to come through so infrequently to have long-term success with it. And you've seen it with Perfetti and Nemestikov.
I was waiting for you to finish so I could jump in and say the exact same thing. Yeah, back-to-back games.
So many of them, you go, oh my God, like when these guys get hot, and the prices are fantastic on them. So what you learn is that if you're doing it every year, like, you see that it comes through at a rate that eclipses how much it needs to remain profitable. And that's been one of the saving graces. That's been one of the most beneficial things for me so far throughout the course of this season.
The books. I think there's a reason why they don't put all those second liners out there, because you're like, oh, you finally got a market for, I don't know, Bobby
Doc Newhook.
Doc
Newhook last night.
Yeah. But you finally get it, and you're going to play it because they haven't really priced in the correlation for that brand new plus 160, plus 165 point guy, right? Like Yuri Kulik, when he went to the top line, there were 2 games before they moved him from like plus 160 to like where he should be, which is probably even money if he's not on power play 1. And that's the thing. All of these guys have a relative price to where you should be. If you're kind of a dog shit player, but you're PP1, line 1, like we call it, like always referred to like the Ross Colton situation. It's like you should be at least minus 160. Like that's your price.
Something, and I'm not one of these people who believes you say something out loud and then, oh my God, knock on wood. I tell people, even on losing nights, even when we have a bad stretch, there will be a time where you look back and say, do you believe there was 4 years where you can click on 2 play? You can click on Tkachuk and Stützle tonight, and it shows you like a plus 115, plus 120, I don't know, something like that. If you came into my pizzeria, as I like to say, and you ordered up like that, like there's no sports book where you live, you're in a forbidden state, so you have to walk into your pizzeria, and that's the guy who takes your bets, and you said, I want Tkachuk and Stützle for a point tonight. I go, oh, really? Coming off all those points? Yeah, you're looking at minus 180. That's what you have to pay at my sports book, because that's what the price should be. In no way should this ever start with plus, if we're being honest. And I think there's going to be a day, the same way I see some people crying about how they're wishing for the early season DraftKings odds. You're going to be begging people for the odds that you get now a couple of years from now. Everyone hates FanDuel because of the awful odds they give.
True odds.
That's where everyone's heading in a few years. And me saying it doesn't change the fact where if we keep smacking them like we've been, having a plus 15 night last night when there wasn't even that much ruckus out there, these times are going to be changing. So enjoy the glory days. You're in the midst of the San Francisco gold rush. You're in the gold rush. You just don't know it. But then once that gold runs dry, you're going to realize how good the times were back in the day. I tell people I'm like the ghost of Christmas future. This is Ebenezer Scrooge. You know about my screw job, misery, prevent, defense. I know when good shit's going to end. This good shit's going to end. So I'm enjoying it. Every single day when I click Tkachuk and Stützle, I'm doing it whistling because I know there will be a day that I miss that stuff.
It is a good point. Like, enjoy it. It will be gone. And that's why I'm also not like shouting from the rooftops as much as I was on these unders.
Yeah.
I like these odds. I like these odds better. And it's so dumb. In my dumb, stupid, recreational part of my betting mind is like, but I don't enjoy it as much, right? Like, oh, the score's changed. Let me go see who scored. There's excitement, right? The anticipation. Is it my guy? Whereas when you see a goal scored and you're like, oh, don't be my guy, and you're doing the slow roll over, and you're like, that's a third line. Love
it. Funny that you mentioned that. I don't know why. We've never spoken about it, but I do the same thing.
NHL app?
I regardless of what app I'm on, even if I have to use a generic Google, I just creep the page up. Creep the page up.
Most infuriating one is like Connor Bedard goal assisted by, and you got Tyler Bertuzzi, and then you see T period, and you're like, yeah, and it's like terrifying.
Donato.
You're like,
or
no, the TT. But no, my favorite's like, I use an app that tells me there's a goal scored. It gives me notification. Then I go right to the NHL page, and it takes like 48 minutes for them to finally load the goal because they've gotten really better at not putting everything up. And I think a lot of that has to do with betting. They used to just say, hey, this guy scored and this guy assisted. Now they wait because they want to be a little more accurate. But like NHL app, and you like slow roll from like the guy's hair down to get the face to see who scored. And you like try to guess whose hair it is. Like Seth Jarvis.
It's your own game of sportsbook. Guess who?
Yeah. Seth Jarvis is the easiest one. Like you're like, oh, that's Seth Jarvis. You're like, but I can name like 75% of the top 6 lines just from like their upper third.
That's pretty funny. You know, when we talked before the season, we were trying to identify some values with scam teams. Who's a scam? Who's not a scam? We talked about 2 who potentially wouldn't make the playoffs, and those 2 were the Devils and the Vancouver Canucks. Devils had a great start, although I think you mentioned this recently on one of your shows. Their record lately has been nothing to be proud about. They kind of are quickly free-falling. Look, I still think they they are going to rely on roller hockey when the time comes. Though they should make the playoffs because of how the East is, but it's going to be a first or second round elimination for them, in my opinion, when they play a real team who knows how to play ass clenching defense. But that other team
the bottom's coming up in the East. That's the issue, right? Like I think New Jersey's closer to that bottom half of the 7 and 8 than they are in that Washington, Carolina upper tier. They're kind of in no man's land. I think Toronto, they eked out that win versus Edmonton, but like they were kind of coming down. Ottawa's got, I think, the number 3 point percentage over the last 30 days. They've been incredible, but New Jersey has like the same point percentage in January as like the Blackhawks. Like that's how bad it is. Heischer's banged up. Obviously Markstrom's banged up. There's some issues there, but all of a sudden you have your Islanders are hot. The Rangers are playing with confidence. I know. Montreal is playing competitively.
No, I just say that because I'm pissed off, man. Like, finally the writing was on the wall to get some assets for these pieces, and these assholes rip off 7 in a row to now convince the old man that they deserve another shot to be eliminated in the first round. We would have got, look what they just got for Granlund. We would have got a first for Brock Nelson, a minimum second for Palmieri for teams that need scoring. And instead, what are we going to do? We're going to trade for some dinky third liner and get eliminated in the first round. It's a nightmare.
But you can sell everybody. You can sell Barzal. Like Barzal isn't labeled to that team, I don't think anymore.
No. I saw somebody maybe Spit and Chicklets talk about it. He likes it there. It was just that one clip that they're overblowing. The thing is, you could easily quickly build around Sorokin, Horvat, Barzal, but all those fringe 30s pieces, they're about to be UFAs anyway. And even next year, Pajot UFA, Lee UFA. Just chuck any of the old guys. And then just do a rebuild around that, and it can happen real quick if you start collecting multiple firsts. But I don't think those guys are. I mean, I don't think it will be the full fire sale with the young guys.
No, but like you see it, like the Rangers are buying, Boston could buy, Tampa Bay's got a. I mean, I'm losing that bet right now. I didn't forget about our 100-point bet.
Oh, I did see that if on FanDuel. If you go to, Alex, I think you had FanDuel up. If you go to the NHL Futures, they have for, I think maybe teams to the right, they actually have point, keep going down. You might have to zoom out a little bit. They actually have like 100 points, 110, 90. It will be below this. Yeah, there you go. Go to 100 points. That's what we had, right?
320. That would be my guess somewhere. Yeah, scroll on down. Show more. Oh, Lord. Oh, 230. Okay.
But to me, without actually knowing it, I thought it was like 50-50 still. They must have gone through a tough streak recently because they were kind of on pace most of this year. They could easily get back. What, a 4-game win streak puts them on?
Yeah, I don't know. Pace? I don't know what the schedule is. They could have a soft schedule depending on like who sells in the East.
The funny thing is, my whole bet was based on the power play kind of not being. It's fine. The power play is fine. I guess.
I think I got Sorelli and Hedman under 0.5 combo for like plus 300 the other night.
Yeah,
like it's nuts. Like I don't know. They're not a great team. They're a good team to fade. I don't know. They're a good under team. They're one of those really good under teams that when they cash, you're like, thank you very much. Like if you cash like tonight's, like tonight's under trio. You got the double trio, right? Like it's 650 and 650 on each side because
it's nuts. Scroll up a little bit, Alex. What I wanted to see was they had above the point barriers. I think it says, Eastern Conference most regular season points. Are you sold on Washington being this team the rest of the year? Because when you look at their odds every single game, Vegas ain't really sold on them. Are they just going to keep this going? I still need to know what the hell is that different from this year to last year. Other than they brought in Chychrun, and now you're starting to see those guys who made a massive difference earlier this season, like the McMichaels, with their kind of offensive production stabilizing to what you would think it was. They're a pretty damn beatable team. This was a bad team last year. Are they really just going to be this good? There's still a third of the season left, essentially. Are they still going to maintain their lead the entire way? They're just going to be the 1 seed?
Yes.
All right.
I just think that their
I can
system,
buy it.
and I just think they seem to be scoring their way out of games. Like they should be playing. You mentioned it, like 15 minutes ago about some games you get 2-1 Edmonton, Toronto. I mean, that was a shootout, but like Washington, what was it? Washington and Winnipeg, that was fucking like 6-4. Like they've played some shootout games too. But Logan Thompson's the man. He's not even for Canada for Four Nations scam off. Like he got paid.
I can buy it, but man, if they played the Rangers in the first round, the Rangers should be favored.
And that's it. And that's where you'll see it, maybe a discrepancy. Like, yes, they can go this way, but once the needle turns to games 83 plus, I don't think they should be priced as a heavy number one in terms of just a series price.
Speaking of division leaders last year, I believe you can still get the Canucks to miss the playoffs at like plus 160 or something like that. Now, Alex, I think I sent you a link. I don't really trust Money Puck with very much, but I think they have the Vancouver Canucks implied probability to make the playoffs. Scroll down at 34%, down with those New York Islanders, and yet they're like plus 140 to miss the playoffs. I thought they were a scam before the season. I thought they were a scam during the playoffs. It was the most unconvincing series win over Nashville I've ever seen. They somehow scammed to a game 7. They had a 3-2 lead against Edmonton. But I think, even with the drama with JT Miller aside, this team is not. It looked like it did during the final stretch last season and in the playoffs. And now without JT Miller, who was great offensively for them, man, I don't see them making the playoffs. Do you?
I'm more caught up in like the Miller Besser thing, like just from a standpoint of like two guys who can't come together and like work. Like, and now it's like, was JT Miller a bully to him? And like Elias Pettersson just couldn't work because he was uncomfortable because he was getting bullied in his work environment. That kind of sounds a little toxic. I'm not sure if it was that bad or if it was just like one thing was said and he would never let it go. But like, are now we're going to see Elias Pettersson flourish because he's in a more woke, comfortable environment where it's not so toxic and he can perform? Or is it just because he's going to get better scoring opportunities because their number one guy, JT Miller's gone?
Look, Miller has been the more effective player, last playoffs, obviously, last half of last season, most of this season. But if you're going to get rid of one, you got to get rid of the guy who's like 32, 33, because Pettersson still has time to find his game again. But that's not a good sign, especially hearing his post-game interviews during the playoffs. He's like one of those scared Swedes, and and JT Miller was like an asshole where if this was the 80s, it wouldn't even be reported and they wouldn't have traded him. It's like, deal with it. Yeah. But I guess, it's not a good sign for Vancouver. I'll tell you that.
And we're showing the MVP. Quinn Hughes might be the most valuable person to his team in terms of what he does for that team, keeping them together. Like if you lose Quinn Hughes, you're gone. Like all of those guys could be gone on their team and their team would be okay. Cale Makar, yes, they wouldn't be as great, but they would get through. Zach Werenski, incredible year. But let's be honest, there's some very good scoring in that team and some depth, and some guys will come back as well. Pietrangelo,
I do love when the odds go from plus 115, plus 210, plus 370. They're all kind of in it. Plus 15,000. I love when it does an absurd jump like that. It's pretty funny.
I think Quinn Hughes. I think you can still get value at plus 115. But Werenski, like if Werenski leads him in points, but I don't know if he can outpace Quinn Hughes, but Werenski should definitely be there. I do think they should get another just leading defenseman scoring title award. It'd be a lot easier.
I want you to, if you can, quickly, do you have a plan? Do you have a scam for the Four Nations scam off? Which, I mean, I'm hardly going to even be watching. It doesn't mean any team's better. It doesn't mean any country's players are any better. You're taking random players who don't play together, not giving them any time to find any chemistry, no preseason, no extended period of time. You're just throwing them together like an all-star game, hoping it works out, and then magically saying, oh, well, clearly this team's the best in the, oh no, it's best out of the random 4 teams that aren't playing for any sort of glory other than the title of random tournament that we put together that has no international sort of prestige or anything. This is a scam face-off, and the fact that there's no Kucherov and Vasilevsky and Kaprizov and Panarin, it's a scam. It means zero. Whoever wins, whoever loses.
Sweden plus 190. Look at that. Like these teams up, these teams are only priced on paper. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, but like Canada will have what? Will have Binnington in net. Like, he's going to be the starter. Philip Gustafson's actually come back to earth, thank God, because he was I think he still is the number 2 Calder guy, but he was in a rough patch. I think everything will be everything will be too priced here. Like Canada minus 235. That seems silly. These are going to be coin flip games, I think, in terms of it. You only get 1 game against each team. Bro, you only get 3 games, and then you go to the finals. This is the highest variance tournament that exists. Go out, buy Sweden, go out, buy Finland, and just hope they make it to the finals, because they absolutely could, and you'll still be plus money. I think Sweden's plus 350, Finland plus 750. Like, I get it. There's the names on this team. So I'll be going to Montreal for that game, the Finland-Sweden game, and then the USA-Canada game. Very excited for it. But if we're talking about it like we don't know what's going to happen, how are the books going to price it? That's going to be a difficult thing for the books. And off air, before we got on, we were talking about it. It's about which book wants to take the risk and take the handle and pricing markets that they don't know how efficient they're going to be priced, right? Like, if you can stack guys, I'd be stacking everybody. I'd be stacking those 4th-line guys, Cirelli and Hagel.
Look,
right?
If they list every player, if some sports book has the balls to list every player, you take every under known to man. Whoever plays Finland, take every under known to man on the other side, because Finland is going to try to Finland these games to 2-1. I pray, but I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they have the balls to do it, because how are you going to price it when you don't know the utilization of these people? Are you going to put, a guy, you're going to put 4th line Matthew Tkachuk at plus 300 for under half of a point or something? I just don't think, I don't think they have the balls to do that, not knowing what the ice time will be and whatnot. I guess we'll see.
That's what I mean. Like, when there's more uncertainty, there's just as much uncertainty for them to price it. So just have to see, get all the accounts available. You can see what's there.
Are you gonna be giving out like daily bets on these?
Yeah, I will do my best to try to figure out what's going to happen in terms of ice time. I mean, it's John Cooper in Canada. Like, he's gonna give his little lightning buddies some minutes, right? Like, Cirelli should probably be plus, like, if you graded it in terms of a regular team and distributed in minutes, right? Like, Cirelli should be like plus 200 for a point. Like, so he shouldn't even have a market, let's be honest, right? But I mean, if you can put him and his line mate together for like plus 450 for 2 guys, sure. And if you can get McDavid and McKinnon under 0.5 points if they play together for like plus 650, that would be incredible.
So I'll be the first to tell you, this is the opportunity then to go follow Josh, because I'll be doing a grand total of 0 videos about that damn thing, the 4 Nations scam off. You want picks for that? You want content for that? You go over to Josh, because I would just be lying to you. I'd be lying to you, other than me telling you right now, if they list player point props, just go unders on everybody. If they're priced like they are, or it's going to be real funny when they learn the lines and you see absolute all-stars, Brady Tkachuk, under half of a point, is minus 250. Like, if they rejigger the pricing based on that, that would be insane. So make sure you go follow Josh over at Covers, because
tell Alex to screenshot your background and I'll use it as my green screen, and I'll get the Sniffers some content over the break.
Well, what you see on that screen right there is those line combos that have been so great for us all season. The ones that I were telling you about. Many people on the Patreon at the same exact minute got banned from Bet365, which lets you know it was an automatic banning. It was an algorithm banning. To the same exact minute they got the notification. And to make them feel a little bit better about it, I said, don't worry, go over to DraftKings. We'll make some stuff over there. I put that little graphic together. It says your max wager is 0.00, which is the notification some of them got. So with the Monopoly jailing, that's what I.
What's the Bet365 wording is funny. It's right. Your current bets are still withstanding, but any futures bet will not be taken or something like that. And then when I first read that, I'm like, oh no, I can't bet future markets anymore. And it's like, no, you can't bet anything.
You can't bet anything.
It's not like you're zero bet. It's like, yeah, you're bad.
So before we go, I think just because it's the week of, and you're a Canadian who, switched his love for the Raiders at some point or whatever you said before.
And then after they lost the Super Bowl, I quit them. So I'm a true fan.
I think it's only fair to ask, what are you smelling for this Sunday? Is there anything I should know about? Because all I've been saying is I don't want to sound like a Dan, but for all playoffs long, I've been saying, look, I just see it. Ebenezer Scrooge, Ghost of Christmas Future. I don't want it. I do not want it. Mahomes is going to beat the Niners twice in the Super Bowl. Mahomes is going to beat the Eagles twice in the Super Bowl. That's going to be the narrative. The QB who beat two teams twice for 4 Super Bowls. And it's going to happen.
So you're going to be like, at the end of the day, you're going to be like, all right, if you bet on Philadelphia and Kansas City wins, like the hindsight reaction, you're going to be angrier at that bet than you would be minus 125 KC money line and Philly wins, right? If you bet that Philly line and KC wins, you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and say, why? Why did I do that? Like, there's no reason to do that. But in saying that, AJ Brown, 30-1 MVP, that is a giant number. Like, I put him in the SGP. I tried to figure out what it would take for him to win and price that versus his MVP price, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards. That's 20. That's 20-1. Right? I don't know.
No, that's a fantastic candidate. Because the way Hurts is playing, if they stuff the run, they're going to have to give it to the reason they would win the game, which would be, AJ.
And that's a great Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's going to throw for 350 yards and 5 TDs. Where it's great passing game. It'd be 220 yards, 100 of those to AJ Brown, and 2 touchdowns to AJ Brown. Saquon runs for 80 yards and a score. Jalen maybe sneaks one in himself. They win. Probably got to give it to AJ Brown in that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a good chance of that if they win, because he hasn't shown that throwing ceiling from 2 seasons ago, but he has shown that he can get one guy a really big game. So even if he has a few passing touchdowns, but he's not going to be rushing for the man. It seems like you don't have to worry about him having that game from 2 years ago, 3 passing touchdowns, rushing touchdown, 50 plus yards, because they have Barkley. And I really like that. That's a solid call. And I guess if KC wins it, there's really only one guy getting it. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, they just spread it around too much in the running game so bad. But
wait, what are the odds on that?
For what?
For Mahomes MVP?
Plus 110-ish.
Are we back to a McDavid thing? Why would you bet the Chiefs at that point?
Yeah, no, we are. If you like Philadelphia, I think you get you just bet Hurts and you bet AJ Brown and just hope that they stop Barkley. Yeah, plus 110. Right? You can get Jalen Hurts plus 350 and AJ Brown 30-1.
Kelsey doesn't have the wheels to even win it. He doesn't have the wheels to get enough yard, No.
That's it. So it's tough. So it's just pick Patrick Mahomes if you want the Chiefs money line. I mean, things can go south, but I think that's probably your best bet. So my kids' baseball team, they're trying to sell squares for stuff. Yeah. Right? Hey, everybody buy a square. I'm I don't want to buy a random square. I'm okay, I'll just put the money I was going to spend on a square on a AJ Brown 30-1 MVP bet, and I just put it in the chat. I said the team can have this if it wins.
Can I tell you my approach for squares?
0-0.
I tell people you got to take the Charlie bucket approach. You buy yourself one. I know Grandpa bought the second one, so max 2. Don't be that guy. Oh no, give me the one that spot number 33 and rid of. Get one Charlie bucket, one ticket, and if you're in the chocolate factory, so be it. Don't be a board spreader. There are so many better bets that you can have for greater odds. So if your friend wants you to be in it, don't be a full Grinch and not join it, but just say I will take one. And that's it. That's my advice for the Super Bowl squares, so you can at least act like you're part of the fun. Josh, I want to thank you for coming on. It was a good day. You know, it's a slow Monday here. After this week, I'm essentially taking a nice little break because I'm not doing any scam off stuff, and football's obviously over. So I appreciate you coming on, man. As always, a pleasure. I know, you're not a shill, but just for people who do want that Four Nations scam off, just let everyone know exactly what they could type in to find you.
Tell Alex to screenshot that background. I owe you a lot, Andy. I'd be happy to record a couple things if you want to put something out. Give the boys some eats, get it to the content, get it to the paying guys. I have no issues with that. But if you need me on X complaining, that's my job. I'll be there. I'm very easy to reach.
Yeah. All right. And for you, I'll put a link to Josh's YouTube page, which is Covers Sports. I got to say, when you search for covers, a lot of things come up,
Oh, yeah.
You search betting, for covers.
Covers betting.
You got to be careful.
Covers betting.
When you search covers. But I'll put a link.
Incognito.
I'll put a link to their YouTube page at the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this different kind of episode today. 1 game slate. Thought I'd have a little friend in here, have a decent chat. I haven't talked to him a bit. Josh, great to see you. I'm sure, as always, we will continue to, go back and forth, see if we can find any new scams when it comes to NHL betting. I will talk to you soon.
Season's right around the corner, Andy.
The fuck out of here, man. Fuck out of here, man. Just thinking about that. It wasn't even... All I had to do was listen to you say things, and still the thought of baseball. Oh, my God.
We won money, and you still hate the sport.
Oh, yeah, I did. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
We got you to Italy, didn't we? Like, we had the Italy fund. Like,
yeah, I just went to Italy. It was the tea and crumpet funds, which were delayed. But I have news for you. I know a few people thought it wasn't going to happen. I'm going this summer. You know how I always complain in August, like, oh my God, there's nothing going on. I'm going to a Premier League game. My dad was born in Europe. He's a true European. So he obviously likes soccer. We're going to go to the real, EPL games. We're going to go to like 2 games when that season starts before any of the stuff starts here. So the tea at Crumpet Funds were put to use. So very much appreciated. All right, man. I will talk to you later. Thanks for coming on.